the day Robert's crush returned to the country. I stood under the spotlight and announced my retirement from the entertainment industry. I explained that Robert and I were just friends. I took full responsibility for all the rumors between us in front of the media. All of it was my publicity stunt. I sincerely apologized to Mr. Law for any trouble caused. Just like they planned, I shouldered everything on my own. Never would I be the reason to make things difficult for Robert Law. But what I didn't expect was that even my departure failed to fulfill their happily ever after. Years later, Robert stood in my office. On the desk lay a freshly delivered business magazine. Its cover featured me. My assistant had just brought it in. Inside was an exclusive interview detailing how I went from being an award-winning actress to the co-founder of an investment firm. He frowned slightly, for the first time, lowering his head in front of me. Chloe. I regret it. Ink bled into the page from the tip of my pen as I quietly closed the folder. Mr. Law, I said softly, do you know what I'm best at now? He looked up at me and surprisingly played along. Investing? Calculating return on investment. I pushed away the stack of project proposals. Feelings are an investment too. When a stock keeps bleeding you dry, the smart move is to cut your losses. And clearly, you're no longer part of my portfolio. Chapter 1. The spotlight was so blinding I could barely see the audience below the stage. I clutched the heavy Best Actress trophy. The mic was right in front of my lips. I blanked out for a moment, though not for long. Maybe 10 seconds. Give or take. The host gently reminded me to give an acceptance speech. My acceptance speech? I don't think there's an actress in this industry who hasn't dreamed of holding this trophy one day. I was no exception. Over the years, I'd imagined myself standing on this glittering stage. All the lights focused on me. Long ago, I even rehearsed my speech with that man, joking and playing around. I said I'd name him first in my speech, and he'd be in the audience, waiting for the camera to cut to his face, so we could share the screen. But today, my eyes swept over the guest seats and landed on an empty chair. It was Robert's seat. 2 hours ago, he said something came up, an important meeting, so he wouldn't make it to my awards ceremony. But 10 minutes ago, I saw a tweet from his crush at the airport. In the photo, she held a bouquet of calla lilies. Behind her, a man, Robert, pushed her luggage and looked at her with a doting smile. So much for that important meeting. Chapter 2. The trophy in my hands felt cold, grounding me in the reality of the moment. First, I want to thank everyone who has supported me all these years, and thank the committee for giving me the chance to stand here. But today, I paused, my eyes scanning the dark crowd below. I have another announcement. The noise in the room fell away, replaced by a sudden, focused silence. Dozens of cameras zoomed in on my face. I took a quiet breath and looked once more at that empty chair. Starting today, I will retire from the entertainment industry. The room erupted. Flashbulbs exploded like a summer storm. I could already picture tomorrow's headlines, but none of that mattered anymore. As for the rumors between Mr. Robert Law and me, my voice was shockingly steady, like I was reading someone else's script. We were just ordinary friends. Nothing more. All previous stories were nothing but standard PR hype. And I'd like to formally apologize to Mr. Law for this farce that never should have started. As Robert welcomed his crush at the airport, I was performing the final scene of my career, a loser who exited the stage with dignity right at her peak. Chapter 3. After I stepped off the stage, my agent Misty grabbed my arm. Chloe, are you insane? Do you know what this decision means? Does Mr. Law know? He doesn't, I answered calmly. But in the end, it's what he wanted anyway. The night from a week ago resurfaced in my mind. Robert's private celebration party. I had wrapped up early, hoping to surprise him, but outside the private room, I overheard a conversation. Rowena's coming back soon. What are you gonna tell her about Chloe? Just as I was about to push open the door, Robert's friend, David, chimed in. I froze in place outside as silence fell inside the room for several seconds. Then, the voice that had whispered sweet nothings in my ear countless times said coldly, "Then don't let her find out Chloe exists." Seriously, man? Trying to have your cake and eat it too? David's tone was teasing. But Chloe's a big star now. There's a ton of talk about you two online. What else can I say? Just call it a PR stunt. There are tons of people in showbiz trying to cling to our young Master Law. Plenty of them have tried to stir up buzz. If we took every rumor online seriously, his harem could circle the south side of the city 5 times over. I didn't hear Robert deny it. That night, I never stepped into that room. I quietly walked away instead. Chapter 4. To be fair, Robert treated me well. He was never stingy with money, with connections, with resources. If it hadn't been for the path he paved, how could I have gone from a nobody to a household name in just a few years? Maybe it was because everything had come too easily: flowers, applause, success. It gave me foolish hopes that there might be something between us beyond benefits. What a joke, if overhearing that conversation was a slap to the face. Then tonight, when he skipped my awards ceremony to pick up Rowena, was a bucket of ice water over the head. At my dressing table, I slowly removed my makeup. My fingertip paused at the beauty mark near my eye. I rubbed it a little too hard. Robert loved that mark. When he was tender, his kisses always lingered there. Rowena had one in the same spot. My phone buzzed, a wealth advisor's report popped up, followed by Misty's update. We've guided the public opinion as you instructed. Estimated breach of contract penalties are around XX million. But thankfully most of our endorsements in recent years were managed by the law group. The legal terms were pretty relaxed. I skimmed the long string of numbers on the financial report. These years, riding on Robert's coattails, my studio made a fortune. The projects we invested in had brought in solid returns. Even with the penalty, it was just a scratch. It was a shame to leave the shade of this big tree, but I've always known when to walk away. The sponsor's crush had returned. The stand-in should know when to exit gracefully. I would never be the reason things got complicated for him. Chapter 5. By that night, Twitter had already exploded. Hashtag Chloe wins Best Actress. Hashtag Chloe quits entertainment. Hashtag Chloe admits publicity stunt. Not just Misty, my personal phone was flooded with calls. Among the missed calls was one from Robert. After a long while, he sent a message. If you've thought it through, then that's all that matters. It was an unspoken breakup. On the trending page, Robert's name was listed right next to mine. Hashtag Robert at the airport. Attached was a photo. Robert stood at the airport exit, gently pulling Rowena's coat tighter around her shoulders. The comments section went wild. So Chloe really was using him for clout? Isn't it obvious? He just publicly dumped her. Why would she say something like that during her own awards ceremony? Looks like it was all arranged by Mr. Law. Go dig into the background of the woman Robert picked up. I bet the real deal is back and the fake one took the hint. I tossed my SIM card into the hotel toilet. Misty tried to stop me, but it was too late. All the brand partners are trying to contact you. What if Mr. Law calls? I pressed the flush button, watching the little card swirl and disappear. Legal's already handling the business matters. As for personal ones, that's irrelevant now. But it's Mr. Law. Misty, remind yourself who signs your paycheck. I cut her off. But I knew, deep down, everyone around me had already bound my name to Robert's. Yes, I'd leaned on him for a lot. But, forget it. Time will tell. Misty, book me a ticket to Singapore. I opened a brand new notebook, used the new ID. From the moment I realized I was just Rowena's stand-in, I started preparing for this. New offshore accounts, assets distributed across multiple investments under a foreign identity. The first thing Robert ever taught me was to always have a plan B. I just never thought I'd end up using it to walk away from him. Chapter 6. When Auntie Lou's call came through to Misty, I froze for a moment. She was Robert's housekeeper. Back when things were sweet between us, I often stayed over at his place, and naturally left behind bits and pieces over time. Miss Chloe, your phone's been off. Auntie Lou's voice hesitated slightly. I've been tidying up the apartment the last few days and came across some of your things, along with some of Mr. Law's. They've been untouched for a while. Would you like to come by and see what you want to keep? No need, I replied calmly. Just throw them all away. But, Auntie Lou paused. There's also a pair of rings. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard XX Airlines. The in-flight announcement kicked in right on cue, drowning out the rest of her sentence. You're at the airport? She asked. I gave a light hum of acknowledgement. On the other end of the call came a sharp crack, like a glass shattering on the floor. Chapter 7. By the time I landed in Singapore, the rain had just stopped. The partner waiting to pick me up pulled me into a big hug. "I've waited so long. You're finally here." I hugged her back and raised an eyebrow. "Perfect timing. I've got a new project in hand I think you'll like." "Walk and talk?" "Knew it." I told myself, "You're a treasure. And worth the wait." The one who came to pick me up, she was more than a friend. She was also my future business partner, Angelica, founder of Nova Capital. We first met at a business banquet back in China. At the time, things between Robert and me were good. He often brought me along to events, introducing me to people and opening doors. At that banquet, I was his plus one. Angelica, on the other hand, was one of the high-profile guests. We should have had no reason to interact until her bratty boy toy caused a scene. I was taking a breather out on the balcony and happened to witness the drama firsthand. Some young stud getting greedy and pushing for resources, only for his sugar mama to kick him to the curb. "You're too impatient. Worse, you don't know how to read the room." Angelica was that no-nonsense sponsor who booted him. The 6 feet 1 inch pretty boy instantly deflated. Then Angelica's sharp eyes looked past him and locked onto me. "Sorry. I was just getting some air. Didn't mean to intrude." It was awkward catching someone's private moment. I started backing away, but she studied me for a second and said, "You're Chloe, right?" That was the first time I'd ever heard my name come from someone else's lips at one of those events. Chapter 8. What came after felt a bit like fate. Angelica knew who I was. Turns out she remembered me from a women's public welfare campaign she'd organized, where I'd volunteered to shoot a promotional video. A promo video? I mentally searched my memory. I'd done so many over the years. I couldn't recall that one at all. Angelica smiled and gave me a hint. "Periods aren't a weakness. They're the tide of a woman's life," I said, and it all came rushing back. Yes, I had shot that video. It was meant to combat menstrual stigma about breaking taboos around women's periods. But that was before I got famous. Back then, I was still in school, newly discovered by an ad agency and dabbling in commercial shoots. Luckily, a few of those ads took off, giving me a little popularity boost. So when someone reached out asking me to do a public service video, I wasn't surprised. They sent over the project proposal, and I found the theme meaningful, so I agreed, completely pro bono. "No need to pay me if your boss insists. Just donate the money to help girls in rural areas." And they did donate, in my name. No less. I even received a thank you letter from a girl in the mountains. I was working on a project in Europe when that campaign was shot. Angelica told me, "I didn't get to thank you in person." I waved it off. No need for that. Looking back, I did get an overseas call from Angelica back then, but so much time had passed, I'd forgotten her name. That night, Angelica and I had a great conversation. We even exchanged contact info and became friends. But I also remember how Robert tried to stop me. He always sneered at the mention of her, called her a woman who'd do anything to get what she wants. He said that the real purpose behind that women's campaign wasn't so pure. Robert told me to keep my distance. Better yet, cut contact altogether. But so what? Even if her motives weren't entirely pure, how many men would have thought of a topic like that in the first place? Kindness isn't about intent, it's about impact. Even if she had her own agenda, the world is still a little better because of what she did. That was what I said to him back then. Looking back, maybe that was the moment when Robert realized the pet he'd kept for so long had grown a will of her own. From then on, his dissatisfaction with me grew. We started to drift. "Look, a rainbow!" Angelica's excited voice pulled me back to the present. Singapore after the rain was truly stunning. A vibrant arc stretched across the sky. It's a sign our venture will soar. It absolutely will. Chapter 9. After arriving in Singapore, I quickly snapped into work mode. The first project I took on was the one I mentioned to Angelica the day she picked me up at the airport. A project focused on hypoallergenic, ultra-safe sanitary pads. Angelica had thought I was just tossing out an idea in passing, but when I laid a full business proposal on her desk, her expression shifted. "So, you're serious?" She began flipping through the stack of documents. "All right, let me go through this and get back to you. Since it's your first time running a project end-to-end, I may offer a few suggestions." 5 months later, I returned to Shanghai. Today was the first product roadshow for the sanitary pad project. Our product had passed early-stage validation and limited market testing. This was our first official public launch. As one of China's financial hubs, the Shanghai Roadshow was a critical step. This time, unlike standing under the spotlight in a designer gown accepting an award, I wore a clean, tailored suit and worked from behind the scenes. But just as everything was ready to go, one of the young founders I'd invested in came up to me in a panic, her eyes brimming with tears. "Chloe, yeah. I don't know why. I've got this weird emotional reflex. Whenever I get to this kind of moment, I choke up and can't stop crying." She couldn't go on stage, so I took a deep breath and went up in her place. The roadshow wasn't just for the live audience. It was also streamed online. A giant screen displayed the live chat in real time. By the time I stepped on stage, the quiet comment section suddenly exploded. "Wait, isn't this the actress who quit the industry? What's she doing now?" So that whole quitting thing was just a stunt? Wouldn't be surprised. Now that the main girlfriend is back, she needs another way to stay in the spotlight. Used to respect her acting, but she's way too into playing games. Total turn off. I swept my gaze calmly across the screen. "Hello, everyone. I'm Chloe, an investment partner at Nova Capital. I've been closely involved in the Taeho Hair Care project from the start. Our founder, Carolina, is an incredibly capable and driven woman. Some would call her a workaholic." Just before stepping on stage, she said she'd thought of a brilliant new feature for our next-gen product, and she insisted I take her place today. So now, please allow me to share a few insights, both as an investor and a first-hand user of Taeho Hair Care's very first product line. Fortunately, I'd been deeply involved in this project from day one. I had a solid framework in mind, and the presentation came naturally. Soon, the live comments started to shift. "Gotta admit, she's got serious stage presence and sounds incredibly professional." "Yeah, but she's too good." Was this whole speech scripted? Ugh. I was this close to becoming a fan. Now you're telling me she's just acting again? Did you forget who she is? Right. 5 months ago, she was winning Best Actress. Okay. Drama aside, I'm seriously interested in that product. Same. Especially the high-end series with built-in sensors. Super impressed. I just downloaded the Hair Care app. The user experience is chef's kiss. As I glanced at the changing tide of comments on screen, a faint smile played at the corner of my lips. Chapter 10. Next came the QA session with the press. Normally, these sessions are just for show, routine, scripted, superficial. Reporter A, Miss Chloe. I noticed that the Taeho packaging has a very prominent QR code. Why is it more eye-catching than those on other brands? What was the design intention behind it? Me, that's a great question. Thank you for paying such close attention to our product. If you try scanning it, you'll see the difference. Usually, QR codes on sanitary pad packaging link to the company's official social media or website. But Taeho's QR code leads to a series of videos. We invited well-known domestic gynecologists to create educational videos about how to use sanitary pads and how to take care of your body during menstruation. Beyond that, our Taeho app also offers a wide range of content: sex education, reproductive health, and mental wellness, recorded by trusted experts in each field. I'm saying all this to make it clear, Taeho has never been just about safe and reliable sanitary pads. Product safety is just the baseline. Beyond safety, Taeho aims to focus on what often goes unnoticed: the long-term well-being of young girls. Reporter B, President Chloe. Are instructional videos for sanitary pads really necessary? No offense, but isn't this more of a gimmick than a real need? Me, you're a woman too, aren't you? You look young, dressed in all name brands. I imagine your life must be quite privileged and comfortable. She instinctively straightened her back, the corners of her lips lifting involuntarily, only to purse them again in an effort to stay professional. But let me remind you, this world isn't equal. A lot of young women like you, living in big cities, may not realize this. According to our latest market research, 38% of girls in puberty across the country were completely unprepared when they had their first period. There's a girl I know. I paused slightly. When she was little, she had no female relatives around, so it was the convenience store owner who taught her how to use pads. But the owner only taught her how to use them. She didn't tell her that pads need to be changed every few hours. So during her period, She used just one pad per day. She kept doing that until college. It wasn't until her roommate noticed that she finally learned what we all take for granted. So tell me, do you still think a professional instructional video is just a gimmick? What I didn't say out loud was that this girl, the one who had come to me with a business proposal, was Carolina. I didn't miss the flash of disdain that crossed the young reporter's face. After answering, I was ready to move on to other reporters. But she pressed further. But let's be honest, your featured product today is clearly high-end. Do you believe all women can afford to spend that much on menstrual care? The people you just mentioned, the ones who don't even know the basics, can they really afford it? I said, Tahoe offers different product lines tailored to different user needs. For example, the premium Tahoe Stardome series includes smart monitoring tech. It syncs with the app to push notifications for optimal pad change timing, alerts for abnormal discharge, and menstrual health reports. Naturally, the pricing is higher. But we also have the Tahoe Dawn Basic series. It focuses on fundamental sanitary pad functionality, so it's much more affordable, designed for women who prioritize economy. Reporter B, Basic series, so it's cheap? Is the quality even reliable? I replied calmly. Cheap doesn't mean low quality. In fact, our Basic series meets a higher procurement standard than the national benchmark. We keep costs down by optimizing our supply chain. That's what Xintion Capital excels at. But maybe more convincing than what I just said is this. Carolina, the founder of Tahoe, personally uses the Dawn series. The reporter looked surprised. Why? Maybe that's what moved me. When Carolina came to me for investment, she said, a premium product can have no ceiling, but a basic product must never fall below the floor. I want to be the one who guards that bottom line. Well, I think we've covered this topic thoroughly. Next. Wait, I have one last question. I smiled. Clearly, she came prepared to stir the pot. I nodded for her to go on. With a hint of provocation, she asked, why name the brand Tahoe and insist on using English? To look more high-end? Or is this some kind of Western worship branding? I met her gaze with unwavering calm. I fully support and believe in Tahoe's potential. The name Tahoe isn't just for domestic markets, we're planning to expand globally. If you had actually read the materials we placed on every seat before the pitch, I emphasized the words actually read, you'd know that Tahoe has already registered companies and filed patents in multiple Southeast Asian countries. Tahoe will go international. So yes, we will proudly introduce Tahoe not just today, but again and again, in every overseas market to come. As for the idea that English equals high-end, I chuckled lightly. To me, real high-end is when global consumers remember a Chinese brand, not because of its letters, but because of its value. Don't you think so? Then came the flood of live comments. Damn, triple kill. Chloe's on another level. Her ability to think on the spot is insane. If this isn't scripted, I'll be Chloe's most loyal simp. She quit acting. Can I still join her fan club? Who said she was just acting? Bet they're eating their words now. Of course it's scripted, press cues are always planned in advance. Why can't you just admit someone's good? I looked it up. There's no way that reporter was in on it. The comments kept flooding in, completely blocking the text behind them. Chapter 11. After the pitch event ended, Carolina came to find me. She stood in front of me with her head lowered, nervously twisting the hem of her shirt with her fingers. She was already a capable founder. Yet right now, she looked like a child who had made a mistake. Chloe. I'm sorry. I nearly messed up the whole pitch. I'm so useless. I reached out and patted her head. Don't be silly. Just being able to stand here already means you've done great. Seeing she was still biting her lip, I smiled and gently ruffled her hair. My first time on set. I flubbed my lines 27 times before the director gave me a pass. Wanna know what he told me? He said, people who are afraid of embarrassment will never make it to the big stage. But that didn't stop me from winning Best Actress 3 years later. Xiaoyan, you're just inexperienced at public speaking. It's okay. We'll work on it back at the office. But this is something you do need to get used to. Because while Xintion can help you secure Series A and B funding, only you, as the founder, can bring Tahoe into the lives of millions of girls. I'd seen footage of Carolina filming the Tahoe promo, in her office, speaking confidently to the camera. She was totally in her element. She was excellent, just missing that last bit of confidence needed to face a crowd. That's the tender awkwardness all founders start with. But I believe the fire burning inside her will melt the thin layer of fear still holding her back. Chapter 12. When Angelica's call came through, I was standing in front of the old Shanghai-style restaurant I hadn't visited in half a year. In the twilight, the familiar carved wooden doors glowed warmly. Congrats! The pitch went viral. Public sentiment is surprisingly positive. I chuckled lightly. Thanks. Isn't the Indonesia project keeping you busy enough? You still have time to watch the live stream? Of course. I wouldn't miss your first big pitch for the world. Then she changed the subject abruptly. By the way, that reporter today, sent by a competitor? No. Well, that makes it even more interesting. She laughed. But honestly, if it weren't for her tricky questions, we might not have gotten such a strong response. Exactly. Sometimes a sharp stone is just what you need to draw out the jade. While I was chatting with Angelica, the private room door opened. I need to take care of something. Talk later. Angelica sounded puzzled. Aren't you there to eat? Can't you work after dinner? No, the one who threw that sharp stone? She just walked in. Your pitch went well. Thanks. Quite the honor to have Mr. Law personally send a reporter to stir up the event. 5 months ago you were on top of the world, holding a trophy and announcing your retirement. You quit the industry, just to sell sanitary pads? Robert sat across from me, flipping through the Tejo promotional material from today's pitch. I stayed silent and pressed the service bell. If you didn't want to act anymore, you should have just told me. I would have supported you. Come join Law Capital. Pick your field, tech, semiconductors, green energy, you name it. Just stop wasting your time on these off-the-radar ventures. And what's Mr. Law offering to hire me back? A VP title, equity, you name your terms. On one condition, you come back. I actually laughed from the absurdity. If I come back, what happens to your crush? Robert frowned. There's nothing between me and her. You still can't handle seeing other women around me? I'm a businessman. Sometimes interactions are unavoidable. But if it bothers you, I'll be more careful. I clenched my fist. I wondered, if news broke right after Tejo's pitch about an investor causing a scene, would it damage the brand? I swallowed my anger. Robert, what makes you think I'd even consider coming back? He shot back. And what do you get from working with Angelica? I've told you, she's ruthless. Back then, you're going to bring up her so-called charity rebranding again? Yes, she only did that PR campaign because her bad rep was hurting her investments. It was all to salvage her public image. Then why don't you also mention that her bad rep came from turning down the advances of Fengyu Media's CEO? That he retaliated by launching a smear campaign? Chloe. He suddenly stood up, flinging the materials. The chair screeched harshly against the floor. You've clearly drunk her Kool-Aid. I give you 6 months before your partnership falls apart. The private room door slammed hard behind him. For a moment, silence. Then a nervous waiter peeked in. Miss Chloe, you rang? I looked at the scattered documents on the floor. I haven't been here in half a year. Didn't realize the private room was open to intruders now. I'm so sorry. I thought Mr. Law was. He wasn't. I grabbed my bag and stood up. Please cancel my membership. Chapter 13. On the same day Tejo made it into the top 10 of the new brands ranking during the e-commerce festival. My second investment project, Roundtable, officially launched across all platforms. Roundtable is the first domestic flexible work platform focused entirely on female freelancers. The platform offers smart job matching, integrated upskilling services, real-time safety protection, and personalized career development tools to support single women, help mothers balance family and career, and empower women to grow professionally at every stage of life. In a warm, sunlit home, founder Luciana introduced Roundtable to a visiting journalist with ease and confidence. I couldn't help but think back to 3 months ago, the first time I met Luciana. She had changed our meeting location last minute to a hospital corridor. When I arrived, she was hunched over her laptop, tweaking code with one hand and cradling a 3-month-old baby with the other. Need some help? I crouched beside her. She saw it was me and handed me the baby without hesitation, diving back into her work. Sorry about that, there was a last-minute change request from the client. They were pushing hard. 10 minutes later, she finally closed her laptop and scratched her head apologetically. No worries, but I think the baby might have peed just now. Want to check her diaper? Huh? Luciana's face flushed instantly. She apologized over and over before dashing to the nursing room with the baby in her arms. At first, I assumed Luciana was a married mom. It wasn't until we finally sat down somewhere quiet that she explained. The baby was her sister's. Her sister had a health issue and called Luciana to the hospital for help. What about your brother-in-law's family? My brother-in-law was an orphan. He passed away when my sister was 8 months pregnant. Chapter 14. In the first month after launch, Roundtable registered over 3,400 users and completed 765 freelance job matches. But just as Luciana and I were gearing up for the next phase, a crisis hit. A woman named Alicia, a 30-year-old postpartum mother, accepted a job through the platform, but with no one available to care for her baby. The child was accidentally injured. Alicia's husband posted videos across multiple social platforms, accusing Roundtable of false advertising, claiming that the promised childcare support didn't exist, and even posted photos of the injured baby. Trash platform injured my kid. My wife just gave birth and was tricked into working. Now who's responsible? The story went viral, trending under the hashtag Roundtable ruins lives. Malicious comments came flooding in. This kind of platform just wants women to be moms and money machines. Shameless capitalist garbage. Sending a new mom out to work? Are you vultures or what? Capitalists cashing in on women's anxiety again. Classic. The founder clearly never had kids. Clueless. Maybe not the founder, but do you know who the investor is? No way. It's Chloe again? Figures. She cashed in big time with that period pad project. Now back to milk more female traffic. Luciana told me she had tried reaching out to Alicia's husband through social media, but he refused any communication. That's when it hit me. This might not be just an unfortunate accident. I called Angelica and asked for her help. I also told Luciana to stop contacting Alicia's husband. Instead, she needed to find a way to speak with Alicia directly. I need to know her stance. But the contact Alicia left on the platform doesn't work anymore. We can't get through. So I had no choice but to call in a few favors. Angelica told me to stay off social media for the time being. She would handle all the PR. But I didn't listen. I needed to see for myself what the public was saying about Roundtable. The narrative was snowballing. Before long, the outrage shifted away from the platform and toward me. Two-faced. Claims to support women's independence. But she only got her start thanks to that law guy. Remember when Law Corp CEO picked up his childhood sweetheart at the airport? That same day Chloe quit acting with a trophy in hand. So the real girlfriend came back. And the side chick stepped down? Funny how she made such a dramatic exit, only to turn around and sell pads. Look up who Chloe's partner is at Xintion Capital. You'll see. Yup. Don't call it venture capital, call it Sugar Baby Central. Angelica? Internet never forgets. Her rep used to be trash too. Check the official Xintion page, those investor women all dolled up in PR photos like it's a fashion shoot. No wonder Angelica plays the field hard. Her ex-boyfriends could fill an album. Of course. Not all voices were toxic. How can someone open their mouth and just erase all of someone's hard work with one sentence? She just relied on a man. Plenty of actors get connections, but not everyone wins Best Actress. That takes skill. Billionaire heirs switch girlfriends like phones. But nobody says a word. Why can't a successful woman date a few people? I'm a single mom and one of Roundtable's first users. I got 2 gigs where I could bring my kid along. The platform is friendly to moms like me. Sure, it has flaws, but those can be fixed. But those voices were quickly drowned in a sea of rage. Chapter 15. Angelica flew into Shanghai. While she was constantly on the phone, busy handling the fallout, Robert texted me, "Come back. Same offer. I'll take care of this mess for you." I deleted the message without hesitation. While Angelica was still tied up in calls, I slipped into my room and made a quiet phone call of my own. During that time, something else happened. Robert's crush, Rowena, came to find me. I had assumed that when I stepped away, they would get together immediately. But strangely, even after all this time, they never did. Rowena asked to meet, said she wanted to talk. She picked a coffee shop right downstairs from my apartment, and we ended up talking for an hour. Chapter 16. Good news finally came from the friends I had asked for help. We found Alicia. She was indeed recovering postpartum, living in a cramped, stuffy apartment. She opened the door holding her wailing baby in her arms. That man who had been shouting for justice all over the internet, her husband, was nowhere to be found. In fact, Alicia had no idea what had been happening online over the past few days. She explained that on the day of the incident, the babysitter she had booked through the platform never showed up. She had temporarily left the baby with her husband. Somehow, the child fell and started screaming. Fortunately, the hospital checkup showed no serious injuries. Her husband said he would seek compensation from the platform but told her to just focus on the baby and her recovery. He'd take care of the rest. Luciana and I exchanged glances. We both understood what this was now. As we were about to leave, I asked her, "Did you know your husband has a pile of unpaid online loans?" Alicia's voice trembled. "He started gambling again?" She instinctively tightened her grip around the baby in her arms. Chapter 17. That night, Roundtable released its official statement. To all Roundtable users and members of the public, the recent incident involving user MS Alicia's child has drawn widespread attention online. After an internal investigation and assistance from law enforcement, we have confirmed that this was a maliciously orchestrated smear campaign. All related evidence has been handed over to the authorities. However, during our review, we also identified areas where our childcare service reminders could be improved. Simultaneously, Alicia herself posted a video online to clarify the truth. People thought the drama had ended, until they saw that 7 of the top 10 trending topics were about Roundtable. That's when they realized this wasn't just a comeback. It was a complete reversal. #Penguin Global joins Roundtable procurement platform. #Tejo and Roundtable sign strategic partnership. #13 law firms co-represent Roundtable defamation case. #prominent scholars praise Roundtable for empowering women. #Lynn City government signs job security deal with Roundtable. #victim clarifies Roundtable not at fault. #Roundtable launches Peace of Mind for Moms initiative. Even though I had seen the entire PR plan in advance, I was still surprised at how fast these topics climbed the trending list. 7 out of 10. I turned to Angelica. "How did you pull this off?" She flipped her hair, smirking. "Don't idolize me. Ever since that phone use scandal, I learned how crucial it is to control the narrative." Though even she was surprised about the 13 law firms. "When did you set that up?" "Right when you were on the phone with the professor. Don't we have our own in-house legal team?" "We do, but aside from going after our competitors and Alicia's husband, I'm not letting the online rumor mongers off the hook either." Angelica casually clicked into the social pages of 2 of the firms. Law Firm A's latest post was a long table stacked with what looked like hundreds of printed lawsuits. Law Firm B had posted a photo outside XX People's Court. Captioned, "The internet is not above the law. We stand by MS Chloe and her legal rights." That caption was a bit dramatic. But aside from that small detail, Angelica had to admit, law firms these days work fast. "Of course," I said, "whichever firm performs the best across all my ventures, they get top priority for long-term legal counsel." Angelica. Then, more seriously, I added, "Sorry for dragging you into this mess too. You mean all that crap online?" She scoffed. "Please, as if I care. That tired slut-shaming routine just proves they're scared of my professional game. Pathetic." Then she suddenly changed the topic. "By the way, Penguin Global? Isn't that Rowena's company?" I nodded. Chapter 18. Let's rewind to that afternoon when I met Rowena at a cafe. She got straight to the point, said she admired Roundtable's mission and that some departments at Penguin Global were in need of flexible labor solutions. She was open to working with us. "Why?" I asked. "Does this have anything to do with Robert?" "Don't get me wrong, this is a business decision, completely independent of him. But I do owe you an explanation. The day you announced your retirement, it was me who called Robert to pick me up. I only did it to put on a show for my family. I honestly didn't know it was such a big moment for you. But you can relax, Robert and I have never been together. I'll admit, I had a bit of a crush when I was younger, but after I went overseas, that little girl's fantasy faded fast. I told her that Robert and I had been over for a long time. I just needed to clear the air before committing to anything, to avoid complications later. By the way, There's one other thing. Penguin is a legacy corporation. Isn't this kind of employment reform too aggressive? Maybe we should start with a phased rollout. But Rowena shut that down without hesitation. I've already aligned with the HR director on the reform plan. We'll confirm implementation details in the joint sessions. And one more thing. From the moment I give you my word, you don't need to question my sincerity. At the end, she lifted her chin slightly, a flicker of steel flashing in her eyes. Did you really think I came back to play some love game with Robert? Boardroom power plays are much more fun. Angelica once told me Rowena wasn't someone to underestimate. They had clashed briefly over a past business deal, and when it came to opponents, Angelica was never wrong. She made her mark overseas. Her father only called her back to Penguin after she proved herself. She's been back less than a year and already won over more than half the board, way ahead of her older brother and younger brother, who've both been in the company for years. From what I've heard, Penguin is finalizing its next generation successor. It's almost certainly going to be her. If she wants to work with Roundtable, that's a huge win. I nodded, then remembered something else. Also, about that service procurement deal from the Lynn City government, our platform is still in its early stage. How did we even land that? Angelica grinned. I told you, I believe in Roundtable's potential. But if you're really feeling guilty, just convert my help into equity. She said it like a joke. And just as Angelica predicted, when the storm of public opinion finally settled, Roundtable wasn't left in ruins. Instead, what remained was a stronger foundation, one forged from trust. And on that foundation, a tower began to rise. 3 months later, the platform had over 200,000 registered users, and the daily job volume had increased 5-fold. Some women landed their first freelance design job after a divorce and used the earnings to pay for their child's tuition. Some, after years spent confined by family duties, retrained through the platform and returned to the workforce. Others formed moms' job alliances, taking turns watching each other's kids while sharing gig opportunities. In Roundtable's conference room, Luciana projected a map of new users onto the wall. The glowing dots, representing active users, were lighting up fast in second- and third-tier cities, places where most of China's invisible unemployed women live. Mothers forced out of the workplace, young women returning to small towns, daughters caring for paralyzed parents while needing to earn a living. And as these women delivered outstanding service with high quality and efficiency, more and more businesses began actively joining Roundtable. Even Robert called me. He said his company wanted to join the Roundtable Enterprise Procurement Portal. I passed that task to Luciana. As for me, I was already on my way to the next project. Chapter 19. In the years that followed, I invested in more and more projects. Media coverage gradually shifted from calling me the retired actress to referring to me as the co-founder of Xiantian Capital. One day, while a pitch deck about egg freezing lay on my desk, Angelica teased me. She said I was obsessed with investing in the women's space. I replied, I believe in the limitless potential of women. Male entrepreneurs change the world, female entrepreneurs change the rules of the world. The next time I saw Robert was in my office. Unlike those cliché win-her-back romance stories, Robert hadn't gone bankrupt during the years I was gone. On the contrary, he was doing just fine. After all, LawCorp had generations of wealth behind it, deeply rooted and impossible to shake. Compared to his predecessors, Robert was unremarkable, but with the Law family name and a team of professional managers propping him up, he was set for a lifetime of comfort and power. The only thing he couldn't seem to get over was me, his runaway ex. So after all these years, Robert stood in my office and said the words, Chloe, I regret it. He lowered his eyes, frowning slightly, for the first time, humbling himself before me. The ink from my pen bled slightly into the paper. I quietly closed the folder. My gaze drifted toward the business magazine on my desk. My assistant had just brought it in. On the cover, me. The featured article inside was an exclusive interview, chronicling my journey from award-winning actress to co-founder of an investment firm. Robert followed my line of sight to the magazine. Mr. Law, I said, do you know what I'm best at these days? He looked up and, surprisingly, played along. Investing? Calculating ROI. I pushed aside a pile of pitch decks on the table. Feelings are a form of investment too. When a stock keeps bleeding value, the smart move is to cut your losses. Clearly, you're no longer in my portfolio. Then I admitted something, years ago. At that private club, I overheard the conversation. That night, I never opened the door. I simply left. Robert's face turned pale. Later I wondered, how could a high-end private club fail to protect something as basic as privacy? Unless, of course, it was intentional. Unless someone, like you, Mr. Law, authorized it on your own turf. He knew, in that moment, there would never be a second chance. That night had been a loyalty test, set up to see if I'd play along. Too bad for them. I failed it. You were powerful, Mr. Law, but you underestimated the dignity of someone like me, who stood below you. Oh, and one more thing. Just as he was about to leave, I stopped him. Robert paused. There was the faintest flicker of hope in his eyes as he turned around. I still remember what you said back then, asking why I'd invest in something as unglamorous as sanitary pads. His brow furrowed slightly, unsure why I'd bring that up now. Well, just last week, another investor told me I should broaden my horizons, look beyond niche women's products. So I asked him, aren't women's lives vast enough already? Robert's expression shifted, like he wanted to say something, but I looked him in the eye and went on. Robert, my world has long since outgrown the one you imagined for me. We're done here. Don't come back. Chapter 20. After Robert left, Angelica leaned lazily against the edge of my desk, her eyes gleaming with gossip. So, she said, what was that all about? I didn't even look up, continuing to flip through the file in my hands. He regrets it, wants to get back together. Angelica clicked her tongue in disgust, as if she just heard something filthy. Where does he get the nerve? Oh, and get this, I added, glancing at her with mild disbelief. He actually asked me why I could work with Rowena, the same person who once drove me out, but wouldn't give him a second chance. Angelica's expression shifted through several shades of amusement and outrage, as if she just heard the joke of the century. You're kidding me. What's so hard to understand about that? That's called, she rolled her eyes dramatically, mutual respect between successful women. What the hell does that have to do with him? Angelica was just getting started. And let's be honest, your breakup with him? All his fault. Total brain failure on his part. What does Rowena have to do with it? Sure, she used him, but if he'd had even half a brain back then, you two wouldn't have ended up like that. I couldn't help laughing and raised a hand to cut her off. Okay, if we keep ranting, we're going to be late for tonight's awards ceremony. Angelica slapped her forehead in sudden realization. Oh right, tonight's the night. You're presenting Best Actress at the film festival. Outside, dusk had settled in. The lights along the bay shimmered one by one, casting a golden glow on the glass facade of the building. In the distance, the Merlion's fountain soared into the air, the droplets catching the last rays of the sun, scattering like falling stars across the cityscape. I closed the file and stood up. Let's go. Time to change into our gowns. Extras 1. The investment started early. Tejo successfully expanded overseas. First month sales broke 60 million. Carolina hosted the celebration banquet in Singapore and formally invited both Angelica and me. When Angelica arrived and saw the massive celebration cake, topped with 3 adorable little girls holding hands, she was completely stunned. She turned to me and asked, "What is this? A preschool potluck?" And yet moments later, she handed Carolina an impressive gift. She nudged me playfully. "Your first project really turned out to be a hit." I smiled. "You deserve credit too." Angelica shook her head. "I wasn't even involved in this one." But I corrected her. "Actually, you were the angel investor in this project." Angelica frowned, trying to recall. I grinned. "Carolina is the little girl who wrote you that thank you letter years ago." "What the hell? Why didn't you tell me earlier?" "She didn't want me to." I pointed toward the young woman on stage, waving us over to cut the cake together. "She wanted to make something of herself first, so she could surprise you." Extras 2. Rowena's wedding. Rowena got married, and her choice of partner stunned everyone. Yes, he was decent looking and had a respectable resume, but, compared to Rowena's family background, he seemed underwhelming. Rowena simply said he was kind, emotionally supportive, and that their relationship had been sweet and fulfilling. Their future division of labor was clear. She would handle the outside world. He'd manage the home. Oh, and most importantly, she was pregnant. It was the first grandchild in the C family. Her father was overjoyed and officially announced his retirement, passing the reins to her. The board had no objections either. After all, her two brothers were disappointments, and Rowena, now married and a mother, projected an image that inspired trust from shareholders and investors alike. So happy for her. Angelica sighed as Rowena gracefully walked on stage in her wedding gown. "You could get married too," I teased. Angelica's expression froze instantly. "Absolutely not. Right now people only say I'm ruthless. If I got married, they'd say I was a heartless, cold-blooded, career-obsessed woman who neglects her husband and abandons the family." I was speechless. Extras 3. A fairy tale investment. I backed a new project. From a financial standpoint, the ROI was unimpressive. When Angelica found out, she clicked her tongue. "Wow, must be nice to be rich and reckless." I explained. "It's a creative picture book startup, fairy tales." The pitch deck's cover caught my eye in a pile of documents. It was a very different kind of business plan. The pink cover featured a princess in a bubble dress, sword in hand, riding into battle, slaying a dragon, saving her kingdom and her people. I decided to fund it because the founder told me this. The belief systems planted in childhood grow stronger with time, until they become self-fulfilling prophecies. When Angelica saw the pitch, she clicked her tongue again. "Still too tame. The 363-month-old girl in me wants a story about a princess and her 18 knights." I smirked. "Come on, President Ange. Don't be so humble. The whole city already knows about Ange and her 80 male models." Angelica was done. A long pause. Then she came back to me. "All right. Let's be serious for a second. That story, any adult content? Violence? NSFW? Send me the link. I need to read it." "Thanks," I replied. "Go to Love Diary and search for it. The tortured romance heroine fell for male models.